And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 77. Well, I hope you enjoyed that sweet Corvette content. My first time driving a Corvette, 30 years in the making, and if you haven't checked that out, please do. Please just watch the first 2 minutes. That's all I ask. Really, I thought kind of neat story of a automotive experience, long time coming. Yada, yada, yada. But we're here to talk about Ford Aerostars. And it's been a little while, but very excited to get back into it. Today's Aerostar has a nice little story behind it too, or a little sort of side addendum that we'll get into. You'll notice that the camera's a little bit different. Because I'm janky, have misplaced my microphone temporarily, so I'm recording the audio on my phone, and so, which I usually record the video, and therefore I got my GoPro, which is a little bit wider, so you get to see some of the, a sneak peek here at the Janky AF, $10 studio. So there you have it. But without further ado, let's introduce today's vehicle. Here we have a 1997 Ford Aerostar XLT Extended Minivan. How do you like that intro? Listed for $4,500 in Broadview Heights, Ohio. Broadview Heights, that's a nice sounding name for a town. Now I have to give a huge shout out to Chris Mert, my buddy on Instagram. He sends me Aerostars from time to time. He has an Aerostar himself, beautiful light blue one. And he sent me this green one that unfortunately I did not get an episode on to. Beautiful green extended length Aerostar. That one has since been sold, but he kept sending me more and more Aerostars from this dealership on Instagram. And so here I will have to give a shout out to Grizzly Garage. I hope you don't mind me shouting you out, but this is the third Aerostar that they've brought in. They do these great stories on their Instagram where they show the cars coming in. I don't know if they just have a thing for Aerostars, but I certainly hope so. This is the third really beautiful Aerostar. They had this green one, and right now, I'll give a little shout out to their website, Grizzly Garage in Broadview Heights, Ohio. And they have this red one up for sale that may or may not have been sold already. And that one, and maybe, if I get a chance, I'll try to do this one real quick too. I love those like 90s style hubcaps, 1996 Ford Aerostar XLT. But they do these beautiful pictures here where they put the car up on the lift. This is just a teaser for you. And you can see how clean everything is. So just very, they seem to sell a lot of these late model cars, and this is this Americana, particularly from the 90s to the early 2000s. I just love that stuff. It's the stuff I grew up with. So cool to see them sort of really rescuing these really, really clean Aerostars. And this one is just an absolute gem. It's extended length, all-wheel drive, 127,223 miles. So a quick shout out to them. And now we'll get into the vehicle a little bit more in earnest. And luckily, because it is a dealership, they took great photos. There's a lot of photos. Just a really, really wonderful listing too. And to have this listed at your dealership, and then to also make these listings on Facebook and do a really nice job with them. Really, really appreciate that. Makes my job easier. Less Aerostar sleuthing to do. So about this vehicle, 127,223 miles, automatic transmission, exterior color blue, interior color gray. Fuel type is gasoline. 15 miles per gallon city, 20 miles per gallon highway, 17 combined. 2 owners, paid off with a clean title. Okay. Seller's description. For sale by dealer. Again, Grizzly Garage. Great name too, I might add. We do not currently offer financing or trade-ins. Fair enough. Sales tax, title, and 45-day tag are due at time of sale. 1997 Ford Aerostar XLT Extended 4.0 V6. Of course, all the all-wheel drive models came with a 4.0 engine standard, automatic transmission, all-wheel drive, 127K. Good, it's a 97, 2007, 2017, let's see, 25-year-old vehicle. 26-year-old vehicle. So 127,000 miles, if you do the average mileage per year, it's really not that high. And to find any car that old in this nice condition, 127, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. We've seen Aerostars go to over 300,000 miles. Clean Ohio title, runs and drives great, nice clean interior, $4,500. Any questions, please ask. So wonderful posting, nice, clear, concise, laid out. And this is a really, really sort of nice classic spec Aerostar with a couple of things that make it stand out. First of all, it's a 1997. So that's cool because it's the last model year. And as you can see, that's confirmed by these taillights here. No amber in the taillights, just red and white. The other thing we'll notice right off the bat, and we'll get into this in some more pictures, but just absolutely beautiful Aerostar pinstriping badging here. Now, I have seen this a couple times. I never knew if it was factory or not, but in 97 for the last model year, I could totally see Ford doing this from the factory. So I bet this probably is factory. And it's got the beautiful, iconic Aerostar font. The other thing that really jumps out right away, aside from the running boards, I'll mention those real quick. Now, I'm not sure if that was aftermarket or not. They're not the sport style running boards. They're just your, sort of more basic metal running boards. I think they look excellent, especially on the extended version. Just a great, great shot there. And the final thing to point out, just right off the bat is these beautiful alloy wheels, which actually look to be in excellent condition, very shined up. And this was a factory alloy by Ford. Again, just really timeless, classic, nice alloy. Nothing too fancy, nothing too skinny. Just a really nice, solid-looking alloy wheel that's, nicer than a hubcap, but, fits the character of the vehicle perfectly. So right off the bat, just, a really, really nice spec. I love this dark, we'll call it Adriatic blue. I'm sure that's not the color, but it sounds nice and regal. With this almost like teal, dark teal pinstriping. Here we have a front 3/4. And, it's in the rain here, obviously, so you can't quite get the condition of the paint when it's wet. It can be deceiving, but it looks to be in very, very nice condition. A lot of these vehicles, I know they get from out of state where there's no rust. I think the red one came from Washington State. So the fact that they're shipping these cars in from so far away is just amazing, too. So credit to them for, obviously they have like some... they're probably running a tight ship in terms of all their logistics and everything like that to bring these cars in an efficient manner and still, be able to sell them to the public. And if you buy this car, you're paying $4,500, but say it was shipped in from Washington. Like, if you found this car in Washington and wanted to ship to the East Coast, you're looking at, over $1,000 to get it shipped. So you factor that right into your price and, you're walking away for a pretty darn good price, especially for what classic cars are going for these days. And this is obviously certifiably a classic. I don't see a rain guard on the windows here, but what's funny is it looks like there is maybe a rain guard on your little triangle window here or some little additional add-on or doodad or something like that. That's kind of curious. There's a little bit of a strange little gap here in the running board, but I just think these are always sort of awkward, these metal running boards. They almost looked a little too industrial for my eye. I tend to like the sport running boards, but these seem to have held up better too because they also didn't trap in as much water. So you can see your great all-wheel drive badge, which we'll try to get a better picture of. And obviously a two-tone vehicle too. It's the blue over the gray. Or silver, I should say. So you have your painted silver bumpers and your nice silver stripe there. Again, just, a two-tone Aerostar is very, sort of classic for this marque. I think it would look great, just completely all blue. But certainly the two-tone, very sign of the times, very 90s, 2000s thing. And I think it looks excellent. Okay, now we have your opposite profile shot here. And a little bit more light on it, you can kind of start to see how nice this Aerostar pinstriping is with just this sort of very, very good color choice. I call it a dark teal. It's more like teal is sort of a bright color, but this just has a little bit more blue in it, a little bit more darker blue in it, and it just looks fantastic with everything. Looks like you may have a small dent in your front quarter panel there. No big problem. Honestly, you could probably pull that out without any sort of real body work. Rear 3/4 here by 97. They had really simplified things. Aerostar badge on the back and your blue Ford oval, nice and clean. Previously, the Aerostar badge was up on the front quarter panel, but that actually didn't last too long. But I really like that location for it. I think it's a little bit more sporty. It looks like a factory roof rack up there too. So really, all the bells and whistles. This is like the creme de la creme. It's the final year. It's extended. It's all-wheel drive. It's the XLT package. It's just really the belle of the ball. Okay, here's a little bit better picture, and I like this too. This is a great shot right here because on one sort of body line that runs all the way around the vehicle, you have the gray Aerostar font with the two little green pinstripes. Follow the light down and turn right on this beautiful angle. You have your second sort of body line that goes all the way around the vehicle, and then you have kitty corner to it, your silver metal Aerostar badge with XLT. So just, that's about as flashy as the Aerostar gets. You can see two Aerostar logos in one picture. So I think that's pretty darn cool there. If you're just staring at that vehicle, like a really nice, really pretty shot there of the two Aerostar logos right there. Okay, interior. We have your all gray interior. It looks like, a little tiny bit of like stuff going on with the foam in the headliner. This headliner was like really weirdly soft, which is nice. It's kind of plush, but very easy to dent and ding this headliner, and it is broken up into two sections. But you have your all gray interior, which I think fits the dark blue very, very nicely. It's sort of perfect. It's a very sort of understated, elegant spec the whole way through on this color from the outside to the inside. And obviously with the bottom silver on the pinstriping, or the two-tone, it fits the gray interior very well. And, lest your eye become bored, you do have all these sort of nice little things that Ford did to break up the grayness of the vehicle. Like even your dash and your door cards, maybe it's just the light, but they're slightly different color. You have this beautiful little like sort of carpeted spot in your door card here that adds just a little bit of texture. And then of course your seats, the Aerostar seats, which we talk about so much. Very, very nice condition. Maybe some very slight staining there, but no rips or tears. I'll check in with that. I think this driver's side might have a little tear on it. But then you have your sort of like beautiful like heather pattern here, this very nice textured gray, and that sits within your more like plush, almost like velour-like solid gray, which is more like a dolphin gray, a little bit of blue in it, which also fits the exterior color of the vehicle, the primary exterior color of the vehicle. And you also have, and I've been looking for these on eBay. You can find them. They're pretty rare, but this centrally mounted control stack, which has this really cool waterfall shape. It teardrops down and then juts out again, and it's all on this beautiful like swooping angle, much like the front of the Aerostar itself. And you can find these, and I apologize, I don't remember who commented, but we were just, sort of bemoaning the factory cup holders on the Aerostar when I did that beautiful Jayco camper conversion, which you can watch. So this was a much better cup holder option. You have these pop-out cup holders, and it's sort of like a little bit more secure, So that is just another sort of like creme de la creme piece of the puzzle in the sort of bells and whistles on this Aerostar. It really does have it all. Here you can see the factory standard cup holders. And that just, it's the well is not nearly deep enough to really hold anything. If you had like a soup can or like a cup of chili, maybe it'd hold it in, and I hope it would, because you don't want chili going all over your Aerostar. But any sort of like bottle, it's nice because it's pretty wide, which is good. But if you don't have something extremely wide, I would, wonder how. Actually, I can tell you it would just spill all over the place because I've tried it. So neither here nor there. Again, the bells and whistles on this Aerostar are just crazy. Captain's chairs. You have captain's chairs. So instead of the two rear benches, you have these beautiful, beautiful captain's chairs, which look very much like the driver's chairs, and sort of like a desirable option, especially if you want to take seats in and out. These benches, while very nice, are a bit heavy, a bit cumbersome. They're not like the stow and go seating that Chrysler had, which is really one of the greatest automotive things. I have a friend, shout out to my friend Ralph, he's looking at buying a Dodge Grand Caravan, and I think people will actually buy this minivan just for the stow and go seating. That it's such a not to give Dodge too much credit, but credit where it's due. The stow and go seating thing was so revolutionary, and it's so handy and practical that people will buy the minivan irrespective of everything else, just for that stow and go seating. And I can see why. But anyhow, these captain's chairs are very, very nice. They look even better conditioned than the driver's chairs, and just another sort of feather in this Aerostar's cap. Another great shot there. Really, really clean overall. For a, again, 25-year-old vehicle, looks like this does spring forward to give you access to the rear bench. And, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, comfortably, very comfortably sits 7 adults. Okay, so we do have a little bit of tear and a rip in the bolster there. That's very common. My 1993 Aerostar Sport has the same issue. Not a big fix. You maybe get a little bit of foam in there to support it. And this one looks like it even has enough material to just sew it right up. So really not a big deal at all. I love these sort of wide shots of the interior of the Aerostar because you just get an idea of what it would be like to sit in the driver's seat. And it's great. You're sitting kind of up high, but not super high. You got all that glass in front of you, beautiful greenhouse. All the controls are very simple and very nicely laid out. Beautiful sort of analog gauge cluster in there. And again, like I mentioned, this one does feature this wonderful sort of center stack here, which gives you all sorts of storage, and I believe additional cup holders that pop out, if I'm not wrong about that. Another just holdover and great thing historically is this big, pull lever emergency brake, which I love. Gives it a little bit more of a car-like feel. And also, me being the old man curmudgeon that I am, not a big fan of, foot-mounted emergency brakes, and especially electronic parking brakes. I think all sorts of things go wrong with them. And I just like to have that, physical lever. So that's a kind of a nice thing. Okay, underneath shots. I imagine they will probably put this up on a lift eventually. This isn't even listed on their website yet. But you can just see how clean it is under there. You still have your spare tire mounted underneath, temporary use only, which is hilarious. Well, technically all tires are for temporary use only, if you think about it. You're not going to use a tire forever. It just depends on how temporary. But that is funny. Incidentally, underneath a car, probably the worst place you could ever put a spare tire. I had to get the tire off of my 2012 Ford Transit Connect one time in a train station. And, it's just an exercise basically in taking a hammer to rusted metal until you can get that thing to fall off. And usually it's got a bolt or a nut on it, so you got to spray it with all sorts of stuff. And after I got it off and put the spare on, which I did have a full-size spare, which was nice, which I used, semi-temporarily. Well, it looks like this actually has white walls in it as I get distracted here. Now, again, a tangent. I put white wall tires on my 1993 Aerostar Sport, and when I mounted them, they actually asked me, do you want the white walls in or out? Which is a fair question. Here they're mounted in. It's not like it's a bad question, but it was just hilarious because I went out of my way to buy these white walls. I'm glad they asked me, but if I'm buying white walls, there's no way those things are going to be on the inside of the vehicle. If I bought this, I'd probably actually flip these around just so they'd be on the outside, even though I'd have to get the tires remounted. So that's kind of interesting that it has a white wall there. Anyhow, terrible location for the spare tire, but, it makes sense. It's kind of the only good place to put it if you don't want to sacrifice any cargo space. So neither here nor there. The overarching point is how clean this vehicle is underneath. I mean, just not a speck of rust on it. As we can see here, maybe just a tiny little bit of surface rust on some of your components, but the unibody itself, really, really clean. So that is awesome to see. And, again, how many, even just Aerostars, but how many cars have you looked at online where nobody will give you a shot of the bottom of the vehicle, the underside of the vehicle, especially in a northeastern place like, upstate New York or Pennsylvania. Like the fact that they provide you the underneath shots of the vehicle, is such and if it's this clean, you want to brag about it because that's so rare and that's so impressive. And that's the first thing that goes on a lot of these cars. I know people who have trucks with 60, 70,000 miles, but the frame is all rusted out and the transmission lines and the brake lines are all shot because of rust, and the rest of the car is fine. The engine's fine. The transmission's fine. Just credit again to Grizzly Garage for presenting their vehicles so nicely. I think it's a fair deal, and I just love that that this is the third Aerostar they've offered now, and I haven't even been aware of this dealership for that long. So I think that's really, really cool. If we can get one more just little shot of this Aerostar pinstriping to treat you all with before we sign off here. But boy, just it's hard to find like if you want to find like an older car, especially, you don't realize how many different little options and things. Like I've always wanted a 996 Porsche 911, and my dream spec is that ocean jade metallic with a manual transmission, a coupe, and a gray leather interior. And of all those 996s that they made, I've seen like maybe one or two. And now that's a somewhat specific combination, I get it, but there's all these options on a vehicle, and to find the perfect right combination of the ones you want is really, really difficult. And I think the extended, the all-wheel drive, the color's right, the alloy wheels, the center console stack, the captain's chairs, and this beautiful, beautiful pinstriping and sort of Aerostar livery with your roof rack. I mean, you can go out and buy some, they're selling Aerostars for $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 for these really nice ones. And obviously it's very subjective. So whatever your taste is, but for me, for $4,500 to get something that's not so perfect that it's almost too perfect that you don't even want to drive it. Like this is an absolutely perfect driver that's in, excellent condition overall aesthetically. And I presume mechanically, but it's got all those little features that'd be really, really hard to get. Even if you wanted to try to piece them all together afterwards. So just a fantastic Aerostar. And again, one more time, shout out to Grizzly Garage in Broadview Heights, Ohio. So Janky, do thank you to them. Check out their inventories and check them out on Instagram. Seems like they always got new vehicles coming in. And obviously, in no way, shape, or form is this a paid advertisement for them. But I just thought it was cool. And I think it's cool. I always thought, there's got to be some niche out there for dealerships to sell 90s and 2000s cars. There's a lot of people that are starting to sort of creep back in time and like this more analog stuff. The values of them are starting to rise, so it becomes a little bit of a more, and they're getting harder and harder to find in really, really nice condition like this. Just saw an interview on Yahoo Finance with Doug DeMuro, and he's talking about how this is sort of like the sweet spot now. So it's cool that these businesses come in and these like sort of niche businesses, and they can sell a particular type of vehicle that, I have friends that work at car dealerships, and I always tell them, like, start buying these 90s cars up and just displaying them on the lot. I mean, especially during the pandemic and even you hear at auctions now, stuff's really, really hard to find. Good inventory, like, sub $20,000 Civics and Jeeps and all this stuff, whatever, like, stuff from, say, 2015 up or 2014 up. But I really think there is a market for this type of vehicle, especially if you can find nice ones and you maybe do a little bit of rehab on them. But you got to get one that's got good bones to start with, obviously, or else you'll end up making Fiat videos like me, and you'll be way underwater. So as a business proposition, yeah, so I just thought that was really, really cool. I like that there's someone out there selling cars from this era. I really hope that it turns into or it seems like it already is a successful venture for them. And I hope more dealerships do this, whether they're independent and they sell just this inventory, or if they're like a larger dealership, but they want to start branching out. And, it's a good way to get people in the door. You got some old classics, and if you're a Dodge dealership, go out and buy like a really pristine first-gen Dodge Neon and put it in your showroom, get enthusiasts, give them a reason to shop at your dealership. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. Who knows if any of this makes, it has any logic behind it, but I'm just really happy that this dealership's out there and that they're selling these Aerostars. So there you have it. And shout out again to Chris Mert for turning me on to this garage. Perhaps, maybe, if the cards play themselves right, I could take a little road trip to Ohio and even review a couple of these. But, we'll leave that up to the powers that be. So, there you have it. Absolutely stunning 1997 Ford Aerostar XLT Extended Minivan. Thank you so much for watching. Glad to be back here on Year of the Aerostar, the flagship program of Janky AF. And, we'll have another one for you very soon. And until then, Janky do thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.